The Scavenger's Promise. The twin suns of Kaldor blazed overhead, baking the cracked earth and skeletal ruins that stretched across the once thriving settlement. Heat mirages danced on the horizon, distorting the landscape into wavering illusions of water that had long since vanished. Rhine Voss adjusted her dust-caked goggles and tightened the fraying scarf around her face, squinting through the glare as she picked her way through the debris. Another ghost town, she muttered to herself, voice muffled behind her makeshift filter. Just like the last three. She knelt beside a collapsed structure, her gloved hands methodically sifting through twisted metal fragments. 6 years as a scavenger in the outer territories had honed her instincts. There was always something of value in places of destruction. Today, however, the pickings were slim, a few power cells with minimal charge, wiring that might fetch a handful of credits at the next trading post. Rhine checked her wrist scanner. Oxygen levels acceptable. Water reserves at 14%. Food supplies critical at 8%. 2 days, maybe 3 before she'd need to return to civilization, or what passed for it in this sector. The hairs on the back of her neck prickled. Someone was watching her. In one fluid motion, Rhine unholstered her pulse pistol, pivoting toward the sensation. "Show yourself," she called out, voice steady despite her racing heart. Silence answered, broken only by the soft hiss of sand against metal as the afternoon winds picked up. Then she heard it, a tiny whimper from beneath a partially collapsed wall panel. Rhine approached cautiously, weapon raised. Slowly, she shifted the panel aside with her boot. Huddled in the small cavity was a child. Not human, its skin was a pale lavender, with faint luminescent patterns tracing across exposed arms and face. Large, almond-shaped eyes gazed up at her, pupils contracted to thin vertical slits in the harsh sunlight. The child couldn't be more than 6 or 7 standard years, dressed in tattered garments that might once have been ceremonial. Rhine holstered her weapon. "Hey there," she said, crouching down. "You alone out here?" The child trembled but didn't retreat further into its hiding place. Now Rhine could see how painfully thin it was, ribs visible beneath the torn fabric. "Hungry?" Rhine asked, already reaching for her pack. The child's eyes followed her movements with laser focus. "If you feed me," it whispered in surprisingly clear standard, "by Star Covenant, you become my guardian." Rhine's hand paused midway to her pack. "Come again?" "Ancient law," the child said solemnly. "Food given is bond made." Rhine snorted. "Look, kid, I don't follow any covenant. But you need to eat." She pulled out her emergency ration pack, her last one, and broke off a small piece. "Start with this. Too much at once will make you sick if you're as hungry as you look." The child stared at the offering, then at Rhine's face, seeming to weigh some momentous decision. Finally, small fingers reached out, taking the food with reverent care. "What's your name?" Rhine asked as the child took a tiny bite. "Nira," she replied, eyes widening at the taste. With each careful bite, the luminescent patterns on her skin pulsed slightly brighter. "I'm Rhine. Where are your parents, Nira?" The child swallowed hard. "Mother hides. Father taken by the Imperium. They burned our sanctuary." Rhine glanced around the ruins with new understanding. This hadn't been a human settlement after all, but a refugee outpost. The Empire's expansion into the outer territories had displaced countless indigenous species. "When?" Rhine asked. 3 days passed, Nira replied, taking another bite. "Mother said to stay hidden until she returned." Rhine checked her scanner again, this time sweeping for life signs beyond their immediate vicinity. Nothing registered, but these older ruins could contain shielded areas her equipment couldn't penetrate. A soft scuff of boot against sand came from behind her. "Step away from my daughter," a melodic voice commanded. Rhine turned slowly, hands raised to show she was no threat. A tall, slender figure stood several meters away, holding what appeared to be an ancient energy spear. Like the child, her skin was lavender, though darker, with more intricate luminescent patterns flowing across her exposed arms and face. Her hair fell in thick violet braids to her waist, adorned with metal beads that caught the sunlight. She was hungry, Rhine explained, nodding toward Nira, who had jumped up and was running toward the woman. Mother. She gave me food. The woman's expression shifted from wariness to something more complex. She lowered her weapon as Nira reached her, wrapping one arm around her child while keeping her gaze fixed on Rhine. You fed my daughter? Rhine shrugged. She needed it. Then by the Star Covenant, you are bound to our family now. The woman's tone was formal, ritual. This is not negotiable. Look, Rhine stood, dusting off her pants, I don't know what covenant you're talking about, but I'm just passing through. Scavenging. I am Celine of House Lithium, the woman continued as if Rhine hadn't spoken. By feeding Nira, you have invoked the most sacred law of our people. Our lives are now your responsibility. Rhine laughed, short and sharp. Lady, I can barely take care of myself out here. The covenant doesn't ask if you're ready, Celine replied, her luminescent markings pulsing with emotion. It demands only that you honor what you've begun. Nira peered around her mother's legs. Are you going to protect us now? From the bad soldiers? Something twisted in Rhine's chest, a feeling she'd thought long buried after years of solitary survival. Before she could respond, her scanner beeped an alert. Multiple signals approaching from the north. Speaking of soldiers, Rhine muttered, checking the readout. Imperial scouts, 6 of them, heavy gear. 2 clicks out and closing. Fear flashed across Celine's face. They've been hunting us since the attack. The Empire believes Lithian biology holds secrets they can weaponize. Rhine hesitated only briefly. Whatever covenant these aliens believed in, she couldn't leave a child to face Imperial troops. I've got a speeder hidden in the eastern ravine. If we move now, we might outrun them. Relief softened Celine's features. You honor the covenant. I'm not honoring anything, Rhine insisted, already gathering her meager findings. Just helping a kid. They moved swiftly through the ruins, Rhine leading the way with practiced efficiency. Nira struggled to keep pace with her shorter legs until Rhine, with an exasperated sigh, scooped her up onto her hip. The child weighed almost nothing, another reminder of her desperate state. The speeder can carry 3, but it'll be tight, Rhine explained as they neared the ravine. Where exactly are we heading? The mountains to the south, Celine replied. Our people have ancient shelters there, hidden places the Empire hasn't discovered. Rhine's speeder, a salvaged military model patched together with scavenged parts, waited exactly where she'd left it, partially concealed beneath a camouflage tarp. She settled Nira between herself and Celine, powered up the reluctant engine, and launched them across the barren landscape just as distant dust clouds signaled the approaching Imperial patrol. As they sped toward the distant mountains, cutting through canyons to avoid detection, Rhine found herself wondering how her solitary existence had so suddenly become complicated. One moment of compassion, sharing food with a starving child, and now she was responsible for 2 alien refugees. What exactly does this Star Covenant entail? Rhine shouted over the engine's roar. Celine's voice carried back to her on the wind. You gave life to my child through nourishment. Now, by our most ancient law, you must protect that life until she reaches adulthood or until you fall in battle defending her. Terrific, Rhine muttered, pushing the speeder faster as they entered a narrow gorge. And if I refuse? There is no refusal, Celine replied simply. The covenant is written in the stars themselves. It binds across all worlds, all species who know of it. Nira turned her face up to Rhine's, those large alien eyes reflecting the dying light of the setting suns. Are you angry to be our guardian? Rhine should have been. Her life as a scavenger depended on mobility, on answering to no one but herself. These refugees would slow her down, drain her resources, potentially draw Imperial attention she'd spent years avoiding. Yet as she looked down at the child's hopeful face, Rhine felt something crack open inside her, something she'd walled off long ago after losing her own family to Imperial expansion. "No, kid," she sighed, adjusting their course as the mountain range loomed ahead. Not angry. Just adjusting to the idea. As night fell across the wasteland, Rhine Voss, former Imperial mechanic, deserter, scavenger, and now reluctant guardian, guided her unexpected charges toward uncertain sanctuary, the weight of an alien covenant settling across her shoulders with each passing mile. Forging new bonds. Dawn crept over the jagged peaks of the Caldorian mountains, painting the stone shelters in amber light. Rhine sat at the entrance of their hideout, running maintenance on her pulse pistol while scanning the valleys below. 3 weeks had passed since she'd inadvertently bound herself to Selene and Nira through the Star Covenant, and Imperial patrols had intensified throughout the region. "They're searching the eastern passes now," she reported as Selene emerged from the shelter, her luminescent markings dimmed to conserve energy. "Getting closer every day." Selene nodded, her expression tight. "The Empire's persistence suggests they know what they're looking for." "Which is?" Rhine asked, not for the first time. After a moment's hesitation, Selene sat beside her on the rocky outcrop. "Lithians possess an ability the Empire covets, our biological synchronicity with energy fields. It allows us to interface directly with certain technologies, to sense disruptions in quantum patterns. That explains the bounty on your people." Rhine reassembled her weapon with practiced efficiency. "Living navigation systems would give their fleet a significant advantage." "We are not tools," Selene said softly, her markings pulsing with subdued anger. "Yet they've harvested many of our kind, including Nira's father. They would take my daughter and connect her to their machines until she withered away." Rhine's hand tightened around her pistol. In the short time she'd spent with them, she'd seen how Nira's abilities manifested. The child could sense approaching storms hours before they arrived, could locate underground water sources by the subtle energy differentials only she could detect. Such gifts in Imperial hands would be weaponized without hesitation. "I won't let that happen," Rhine said, surprising herself with her conviction. Selene studied her face. "You've changed since we met, scavenger." "Have I?" Rhine raised an eyebrow. "Still seems like I'm doing a lot of running and hiding." "Yet you run with us, not from us." Selene reached out, her slender fingers hovering near Rhine's wrist before withdrawing. "The Covenant revealed your true nature." Before Rhine could respond, Nira burst from the shelter, her markings pulsing with excitement. "I found something. Look." The child held out her hands, where a small mechanical device lay partially disassembled. Rhine recognized it immediately, one of her scanning modules she'd been trying to repair. "I fixed it," Nira announced proudly. "It was thinking wrong, but I helped it remember its purpose." Rhine took the scanner, examining it with disbelief. She'd been struggling with that particular module for months. "How did you?" "I listened to its energy," Nira explained as if it were obvious. "It wanted to work but forgot how." Selene's expression softened with pride, though concern lingered in her eyes. "This is why the Empire hunts us. This connection." Rhine activated the scanner, and to her amazement, it functioned perfectly, better than before, in fact. Its range had somehow extended beyond factory specifications. "You've got a gift, kid," she said, ruffling Nira's hair. The child beamed under the praise. A sharp beeping from Rhine's wrist communicator interrupted the moment. She checked the readout, her expression darkening. Imperial dropships, 3 of them, coming in from the south. Heavy signatures, not just scouts this time. Selene gathered Nira close. "They found us." "Worse," Rhine said, enhancing the scanner's resolution. "That's a Huntmaster-class vessel. They've sent specialists." She met Selene's gaze. We need to move. Now. They had prepared for this possibility, packs already assembled with minimal essential supplies. Within minutes, they were moving through a narrow mountain pass, following a route Rhine had scouted days earlier. Where are we going? Nira asked, struggling to keep pace. There's an abandoned mining outpost about 6 kilometers north, Rhine explained, helping the child over a difficult stretch. If we can reach it, I can access their communication array, maybe call in some favors. You have allies? Celine asked, surprise evident in her voice. Rhine's laugh was short, humorless. Former smuggling partners. Not exactly allies, but they owe me. And they hate the Empire more than they dislike helping others. They traveled in tense silence after that, the distant whine of Imperial engines growing closer with each passing hour. By midday, they reached the mining outpost, a collection of dilapidated structures carved into the mountainside, abandoned after the ore veins ran dry. Rhine set to work immediately, powering up ancient consoles while Celine kept watch. Nira explored the facilities with wide-eyed curiosity, her natural affinity for technology evident as dormant systems responded to her touch. The communication array is functional, Rhine announced after an hour of work. But there's a problem, the encryption protocols are locked. Without the proper codes, any message we send will be intercepted by Imperial monitoring stations. Nira approached the console, her markings pulsing rhythmically. May I try? Rhine hesitated, then stepped aside. The child placed her small hands on the console, her eyes closing in concentration. The luminescent patterns on her skin synchronized with the flickering lights of the system, creating a hypnotic display. She's interfacing directly, Celine whispered, awe in her voice. A skill that usually takes decades to master. After several minutes, Nira opened her eyes. It will speak secretly now, she said, her voice slightly strained. It promised to hide our words. Rhine wasn't entirely convinced but had little choice. She encoded a brief message to her contact, location, situation, request for immediate extraction, and sent it into the void, hoping against hope it would reach friendly ears. Now we wait, she said, collapsing into a worn chair. And prepare for the worst. Celine sat beside her, their shoulders almost touching. If the Empire captures us. They won't, Rhine interrupted. If they do, Celine persisted, the Covenant releases you from obligation. You must know this. Rhine turned to face her. Is that what you want? For me to abandon you at the first sign of real trouble? No, Celine admitted softly. But I would not see you suffer for a bond you never chose to accept. I may not have chosen it initially, Rhine said, watching Nira as she continued to communicate with the mining facility systems, but I'm choosing it now. A distant explosion shattered the moment, the unmistakable sound of Imperial thermal charges clearing the mountain passes. They're close, Rhine said, checking her weapons. Too close. We need to move deeper into the facility. They retreated into the mine shafts, guided by Nira's uncanny ability to sense structural weaknesses and avoid them. Hours passed in tense silence, the distant sounds of Imperial search parties growing ever closer. Eventually, they reached a dead end, a massive chamber that had once been the heart of the mining operation. Ancient machinery loomed in the darkness, illuminated only by the soft glow of Celine and Nira's markings. We make our stand here, Rhine decided, setting up a defensive position behind a massive ore processor. Celine prepared what few weapons they had, her energy spear, Rhine's backup blaster, improvised explosives fashioned from mining charges. Nira sat quietly, her hands pressed against the stone floor. Someone's coming, she whispered suddenly. Not Empire. Before Rhine could question her, a section of the far wall slid aside, revealing a hidden passage. A figure stepped through, a broad-shouldered woman with cybernetic enhancements visible along her jawline and arms. Voss, the newcomer acknowledged with a curt nod. Still finding trouble, I see. Relief flooded through Rhine. Desta. You got my message. Hard to ignore when it bypassed my ship's security like it wasn't even there, Desta replied, eyeing Celine and Nira with open curiosity. These your Lithians? They're worth a fortune on the Imperial bounty boards. They're under my protection, Rhine said firmly. The Star Covenant. Desta's eyebrows rose. You invoked the ancient laws? Bold move for a scavenger. Not by choice, Rhine admitted. But I'm standing by it. A series of explosions echoed through the tunnels. The Imperial forces were breaching the outer defenses. Well, this reunion will have to wait, Desta gestured toward the passage. My ship's docked in a concealed bay on the other side. We've got maybe 5 minutes before this whole place is crawling with Imperial drones. They moved swiftly through the passage, emerging into a natural cavern where Desta's ship, a modified transport vessel with obvious weapons upgrades, waited. As they boarded, the rumble of approaching Imperial forces grew louder. Where to? Desta asked, sliding into the pilot's seat. Rhine looked at Celine, who held Nira protectively. The resistance outpost in the Vega system, Celine suggested. Our people have gathered there since the purge began. Vega's crawling with Imperial checkpoints, Desta warned. Then we'll need a talented pilot, Rhine replied. Good thing I know one. As the ship lifted off, breaking through a concealed exit in the mountainside, Rhine felt Nira's small hand slip into hers. The child looked up at her, those alien eyes full of trust. You are truly our guardian now, she said solemnly. Beyond the viewports, Imperial ships rose into pursuit, their weapon systems charging. Ahead lay an uncertain future, a life of continued running, fighting, surviving. But no longer alone. I guess I am, Rhine agreed, squeezing the child's hand gently as Desta's ship accelerated toward the stars. For as long as you need me. Celine joined them, her hand coming to rest lightly on Rhine's shoulder. The Covenant isn't just about protection, she said softly. It's about belonging. You fed my child when she hungered. Now you are family. Family. The word echoed in Rhine's mind as Desta's ship broke atmosphere, leaving Kaldor's twin sons behind. She'd spent years avoiding attachments, believing solitude was the only safe path in a galaxy dominated by Imperial rule. Yet now, bound by an ancient alien covenant she'd never sought, Rhine Voss had found something she'd stopped looking for long ago, a reason to fight for something beyond mere survival. As the stars streaked past the viewport, Rhine allowed herself to smile. Whatever came next, they would face it together.